Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Stretford Paddock. I am Alex, and here this morning to bring you the latest Manchester United news. And no, we aren't going to be able to talk about too much football. We're not talking about the games coming up. We're not talking about a European semi-final that we've got this week. We are talking about the Glazer protest and the more of a fallout from this weekend. We've also got a little bit of transfer news that broke last night. I will get to that later. How are you guys doing? Make sure you are getting in the comments. Make sure you're getting your questions in. I will be getting to those later on. But let's start straight away. And this is an article from the Times talking about the protests and the fact that there may be new protests planned. It's understanding that planning for more demonstrations is already underway, with United's next home game against Leicester City on May 12th and the replay of the Liverpool match potential targets. A date for the rearranged match is yet to be determined. Now, looking at those dates, there is looking like maybe the 15th and the 16th weekend, that there isn't a game planned at this moment in time. I'm not 100% sure why. I think this was the one. They've moved the game back in order to allow teams to have home support. Both teams have home support towards the end of the season, so every team will at least have something, with May 17th being the date for the change of when fans will be allowed into the stadium. So 17th of May, that's why that's been moved. So it's looking likely that the Liverpool game will be played over the weekend of the 15th and 16th. And the Times are picking up on this. This has kind of been a bit more of a Twitter buzz saying that there are going to be more protests and it is going to be around the home games. Obviously nothing planned for the game this week. We've got 2 away games. We've got one against Roma away in the Europa League, and then away to Aston Villa this weekend. So no protests until probably the Leicester City game in a couple of weeks' time. The Times article, there's been a few good articles in the last few 24 hours and stuff coming out of the game. There's been a lot of the mainstream media started to talk about the violence, the hooliganism, and all that kind of stuff, and also the police brutality, and also started to pick up on the things that happened in the police. The GMP spoke about things and said that our brave colleagues went to work to keep the people of Greater Manchester safe, and he ended up coming home under attack. He's incredibly lucky to have his sight in his eye. They also then picked up on the potential, you've seen the pictures of the police officer and the Manchester United fan around the Lowry. So they started picking up on things like that, but there's been a few more journalists and a few people, especially, Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football last night, picking up more on why this was the case and why these protests happened, and not just looking at the getting on the pitch, the breaking and entry and all this kind of stuff. They started to look at why this has got to the pace. And Jamie Carragher did a brilliant job of calling out the lazy punditry. I think kind of aimed at maybe Graham Souness, Alan Shearer, Jermaine Genius, those sort of people that were saying things like, I don't quite get it. I don't get why the Glazers, why they're so bad. They're spending money, obviously. Not getting any research in whatsoever, not looking at the bigger picture, not looking at the £2 billion that have been taken out of Manchester United and the net spend of £1 billion in transfers, apparently. But this is the one thing about this is that money was there to be spent. That's money generated by Manchester United. That isn't money generated by the Glazers. They've taken more money out. And actually, there's a fantastic thread on Twitter. I think Stephen Howson retweeted this morning. If you want to have a bit more of a read into the details of what's going wrong in terms of the financial side of things for Manchester United, have a look at that thing. I'll just pull it up and I'll find out which Twitter account it was from. But have a read of that one. It really goes into details of what's gone on, and not just they've spent a bit of money in the transfer market, or they're taking out a bit of money, or it's debt. He goes into real details in terms of the cash flow of Manchester United and how they've done things in terms of, getting bigger transfer fees in, but paying it in installments so that the Glazers still have money to take out. Goes into a lot of detail about that, so make sure you guys are going over and checking that out. The next story I have for you this morning, this is from the Guardian, and this is about the Glazers, again, not wanting to sell Manchester United. This story this morning, the Glazers intend to stay, have no plans to sell Manchester United, and have a long-term vision to grow the club's value from $3 billion to $7 billion, $10 billion business. That's what they're kind of looking at. Jay Motti summed this up this morning. What this is the Glazers have the plan of making more money out of this. That's all they're after. And this was the whole point of the ESL. This is the whole point of why this got pitched in the first place. This wasn't a thing for, it's going to be great to see these kind of things. What the Glazers want, They want guaranteed income every year. You look at the financial statements of Manchester United, you look at when we are in the Champions League, how much more money we make and how much more money the Glazers can take out after they make it into the Champions League every year. And it's a lot more. I think they average around 70, 80 million guaranteed money that they have and they can take out. When we're not in that, they can't take that much money out. But if they'd have got the European Super League through, if they'd have got these things kind of through, they'd have been guaranteed, I think it was around 120 million every single year to take out into their pockets and not do things like that. So this is the reason they're doing this. And what they want to do is they want to grow the value of the brand so that they can make more bits of money and more steady income. They don't want to grow the brand of Manchester United in order to have better performances on the football pitch. They don't want to grow the brand of Manchester United in order to invest into the stadium, make it a better place to go. They don't want to invest into the training facility to make it the best football institution in the country. They're not doing that. What they're doing is getting more money so they can take little bits every year. I mean, it sums up this season. You're in the coronavirus pandemic. They've had to take out a loan of 60 million. 60 million in order to pay the fees of the staff workers that have worked all the way through. But still, in January, they took out a dividend of 10 million pounds. Like, they've still made money out of all this. The club lost 50 million last year. They had to take a loan out to cover costs, but the Glazers still this year have taken cash out. And this is the problem with it all. What they want to do is make this a simple thing. So this is the question is, will the Glazers sell and what's going to make them sell? A lot of talk around boycotting sponsors and things like that. A lot of talk in driving that down. But the big thing that's going to do it is going to have to be legislation. It's going to have to be legislation that says that they can't just make money out of this, that they have to put money in order to do that. They have to give the fans a say. And that's what these protests are about. You've seen the really good letter from Musk yesterday that kind of set out what they want from it. They're not saying demanding to sell Manchester United. They know that it's a very difficult thing to just have someone turn up with 4 billion quid and go, there you go. But what they have really done is set out what can happen in the short term in order to get that. And that'll be really interesting in whether the Glazers and Manchester United respond to those things before Friday, which is the deadline that they set from that Musk yesterday. So all sorts of things from the weekend still coming out, all sorts of different things. The Manchester United made a statement yesterday talking around the criminal damage and all this kind of stuff and what they're looking at doing. And in this Guardian article, they are looking at putting bans in place for certain different people. But a couple of tweets and a couple of things this morning are saying that the bans and the fines and the things that they're going to do and the things that they're putting towards is more down to the criminal damage and things like that, and is not looking at the fans that got onto the football pitch. It's the fans that did do any criminal damage to the stadium and broke anything. That's what they're looking at punishing. They are not looking at punishing the fans that just got into it. There are obviously mixed reports. Manchester United came out yesterday and said that there was breaking and entering into the ground. There's footage of that, but there is also footage of fans getting in through gates and different things like that. So a very mixed response from what's going on. And I think more and more will come out. Obviously, the FA and the Premier League, it's been bank holiday, so they've had a couple of days off. They will start looking at what's going on with all this and investigating much further. Let's have a quick look at some of your comments before I do move on to a little bit of transfer news that broke overnight. There's a lot of people saying no more billionaires, 50 plus one, nothing else. This is the one situation that's making this a little bit difficult, is that there are some billionaires in the Premier League that are being classed as good owners. And I think that it's been forgotten very, very quickly about the Super League and the fact that as long as they put money into the stadium, into the players, that's fine. They can do what they want. They're not looking at regulating it. They're not looking at having fans involved in those clubs. They're just bothered about them spending some money. Let's have a look what else we've got. We need to go for the sponsors now. The problem with the sponsors is that I think that the deals that Manchester United do for the sponsors are massive. Obviously, we've talked about the Adidas deal for years. I think it was 750 million. Huge deal for Manchester United. A huge deal for Adidas to fork out. But at the same time, they aren't doing that because of the money that the match-going fan or even the wider audience pays for those things. What they do is that it's Adidas branding on TV that's watched by millions and millions and millions of people that aren't even Manchester United fans, that aren't fans of Manchester United. They just look at it and go, oh, I like the Adidas tracksuit. It's nice that. Even though it's got a United logo on, I like that. And they end up buying it. They end up, oh, I like that jersey. I like that kit. I'll just buy it. Not fans. They're not too bothered about that. They're bothered about the brand reach. So even if we stop doing it, even if Manchester United fans stop buying things, Adidas is still getting eyeballs on that kit every week. And that's all they're bothered about. They're not bothered about the direct click-through rate for Manchester United fans. They're bothered about the whole thing. So the sponsors thing's a really, really tricky one. I don't think that it's going to do a massive impact on what all that is. I think whilst they've got players like Paul Pogba that can spread the Adidas kind of stuff, I think Manchester United are happy, Adidas are happy. I think it'd be very, very difficult to do any of that kind of stuff. Let's have a quick look what else we have. KLS for transfer news, weirdly enough. Let's get on to that transfer news. This was a tweet from Fabrizio Romano. This came out last night. He said, Borussia Dortmund will be open to sell Sancho in the summer if the right bid will arrive. After 1 year ago, he was one step away from joining Manchester United. Borussia Dortmund will be asking less than 120 million euros to let Sancho leave this year, but no late bids at the end of the window. I think you're right. I think it does feel a bit weird at this moment in time where I'm not too bothered about transfers. And I think that the one thing that I've seen a couple of things say is, let's get that transfer in. That'll make up for all this stuff. That'll make up for the Super League stuff. I saw a lot of things under the Liverpool thing saying, as long as you sign Mbappe, we'll forget about this. I think that this is a secondary thought. I think the whole thing is that we look at again this year, that 120 million euros that we needed for Jadon Sancho last year and what it was. We didn't I think we were bidding 80 million. But if we hadn't have been paying interest debts of 80 million a year, we'd be able to afford the right players. Imagine since the Glazers got in 16 years, we'd have had 80 million a year extra in transfer fees. Think of that squad. Think of what that would do. Think of the net spend after we sold Cristiano Ronaldo. Imagine if it was 80 million up rather than the net spend of, I think it was 60 million that summer. We got in 60 million pounds. Ridiculous. Imagine what if that had happened. So yeah, Jadon Sancho deal coming in. I think that obviously this is kind of going to go one of two ways. I think either the Glazers are going to spend no money whatsoever this summer and kind of say, well, you did that. You've been protesting. You don't like us. We're not going to spend any money. Or they're going to try and do what I think a few people think is that as long as, they've done it for a while, but as long as things go well on the pitch, people are happy. People don't talk about us. And I think that that's what they may try and do. They may try and sign a couple of extra players, may try and spend a little bit more to make everyone a little bit happier, try and deflect away from all this kind of stuff. So we'll see how this one goes. But I think Jadon Sancho is still a very big option for Manchester United. I think it's clear to see this season that we've been lacking an extra forward. I think that we could do with one more in there. I think Mason Greenwood's played a lot on the right-hand side this year. You want to play him through the middle. I think you've seen how thin the squad gets when Anthony Martial got injured. You've not been able to give someone like Marcus Rashford a rest. We need an extra forward, and we need someone of that potential world-class bracket. We don't need someone that's going to be a squad player. We need someone that can start in, week out. And Jadon Sancho will obviously be on that list all the way through for Manchester United. And I think that there's a good chance that this one happens. I think that if you can get him for, I think the reported fees was 75 to 85 million pound now. I think that's it. You look at his stats again this year. Imagine if you'd have added 12 goals into Manchester United this season. That's a lot of goals for someone that's a winger. I think that you look at what Mason's added into this team. You've looked what Marcus Rashford added into this team. If you added someone that's played 34 games, not too many games this season, to get 12 goals, that would be massive for Manchester United to add that kind of thing for next season. Right. Let's have a quick more of a scan through some of your comments. What you guys are saying this morning. We want Glazers out, of course. Christy Williamson, the money coming into the game is partly caused by a decline in bad behaviour, made the TV companies and corporate sponsors uncomfortable with having their name attached to it. The money coming into the game has all been due to television. It has all been due to the shift away in the 90s, the late 80s, into making it more accessible for people to watch on TV and not be bothered about match day. You've seen how that's been a shift for Manchester United in their commercial sponsorships. They make more of commercials than they do of match days than they ever have before. It's really it's actually, I think it's decreased in the past 10 years how much they make on a match day from 2009 to 2019. So all these things leaning towards money coming in from TV, which obviously has a bigger audience, a bigger reach, and obviously has meant that more and more money has been piled into the games because sponsors have seen that. Sponsors have put more money in, a lot more money into the game, which means things like Jadon Sancho is worth £100 million or whatever it's going to be this summer to get him. So yeah, you're right. It has been a shift, and that's what the Glazers are after. The Glazers are after. It's an easier thing to sell. It's an easier thing to sell an app than it is to sell a match day experience. To sell or to put money into improving a stadium. It's much easier to get developers in and to sell a commercial thing online than it is to do the average fan. Let's have a quick look what else you guys are saying. If they want to increase the value to 7 billion, if they manage to do that, then the chances of someone buying the club is done. If they are doing those kind of things, you're right, that what they're going to try and do is just keep making money. There's less chance of someone signing it. I think the only way that they really sell Manchester United is if the options and things like that are limited for how much money they can make. The charter that came out from the Premier League yesterday saying that these clubs are all going to have to sign something that says that they can't break away, that they have to sit by their traditions and things like that, that will limit how much money they can make, and that will start to think about things. If you get the 50+1 in terms of fans will have some kind of say, that fans will have a say of where money gets distributed, what happens, if we are, up in season tickets, here are the options of where that money gets put to. It's not just going into the pockets of the owners. That will make them think a little bit. But whether that goes through is a big thing. Alex, what do you think of Ollie's opinion of someone like Fabrizio Romano is? I think what it is he probably respects that he's a journalist that does a job. That's all it is. There's so many people in the industry that do think that make their money off this and do this kind of stuff. Fabrizio Romano is one of the best of it. He does it in a very good way. He speaks in a very good way. He tends to get things right. I think Ollie's probably opinion on him is probably better than this person that literally plucks things out of the air. I think Romano does at times put things out there that are a little bit ambiguous, but at the same time, he's pretty spot on for most things. So I think that Ollie and all the managers are probably happier with journalists that get things right and are reporting truth than they are the ones that just make stuff up and that just make clickbait articles and things like that. So I think that his opinion on someone like Fabrizio Romano is probably a lot higher than his opinion on a lot of other journalists in the game. What else have we got this morning? I suspect the Glazers won't spend much money this summer as a kind of payback for the protests. Like I said, I think it could go either way, how they kind of react to this. So we'll see how that kind of goes. Right, that is going to be all from me this morning. Thank you very much for joining for the news this morning. Make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing. We will be keeping you up to date with all the breaking news around the protests, around the fallout from all of that kind of stuff. So make sure you're hitting that notification bell and getting involved. We'll also have the build-up because there is some football this week. We are playing Roma in the second leg of the Europa League. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit. I've been Alex, and I will see you next time.